Hello, my name is Kyle Martin, and today I'm going to be informing you about marine pollution. Marine pollution is a major issue in this time, and everyone needs to be doing their part. Today I will talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and who contributes to it the most. I will also talk about marine pollution and its effects on the environment and the organisms living there. First, let's take a look at the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a collection of marine pollution in the North Pacific Ocean. Marine pollution is trash that ends up in oceans, seas, and other large bodies of water. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch spans from the west coast of North America to Japan. This area of pollution is linked together by the North Pacific Subtropical Convergence Zone. This zone is where warm water from the South Pacific meets up with cooler water from the Arctic. The zone acts like a highway that moves pollution. The entire Great Pacific Garbage Patch is bounded by the North Pacific Subtropical Gyre. The North Pacific Subtropical Gyre is formed by four currents: the California Current, the North Equatorial Current, the Kuroshio Current, and the North Pacific Current. The area in the center of the gyre is very calm and stable. The circular motion of the gyre draws pollution into this stable center, where it becomes trapped. The amount of pollution in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch accumulates because much of it is non-biodegradable. Many plastics, for instance, do not wear down. They simply break down into smaller and smaller pieces. These patches are almost entirely made up of tiny bits of plastic, called microplastics. Microplastics can't always be seen by the naked eye. Even satellite imagery doesn't show a great giant patch of garbage. The microplastics of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and all around the ocean can simply make the water look more cloudy. This water is intermixed with larger items, such as fishing nets and other miscellaneous larger items. The seafloor beneath the Great Pacific Garbage Patch may also be an underwater dump, so to speak. Oceanographers and ecologists recently discovered that about 70% of marine debris actually sinks to the bottom of the ocean. No one knows much about the pollution makeup of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The North Pacific Subtropical Gyre is too large for scientists to measure. In addition, not all of the trash floats on the surface. Denser debris can sink centimeters or even several meters beneath the surface, making the area nearly impossible to measure, as just previously talked about. About 54% of the pollution in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch comes from land-based activities in North America and Asia. The leading countries, however, contributing the most pollution are China and Indonesia. The remaining 20% of debris in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch comes from boaters, offshore oil rigs, and large cargo ships that dump or lose pollution directly into the water. Marine pollution can be very harmful to marine life as well. For instance, loggerhead sea turtles often mistake plastic bags for jellies, their favorite food. Albatrosses mistake plastic resin pellets for fish eggs and feed them to chicks, which can either die of starvation or die of ruptured organs because of the plastics. Seals and other marine mammals are especially at risk. They can get entangled in plastic and fishing nets. Seals and other mammals often drown in these forgotten nets. Marine pollution can also disturb marine food webs in the North Pacific Subtropical Gyre. As microplastics and other trash collect on or near the surface of the ocean, they block sunlight from reaching plankton and algae below. Algae and plankton are the most common autotrophs or producers in the marine food web. If algae and plankton communities are threatened, the entire food web may change. Animals that feed on algae and plankton, such as fish and turtles, will have less food. If populations of those animals decrease, there will be less food for apex predators, such as tuna, sharks, and whales. Eventually, seafood becomes less available and more expensive for everybody. These dangers are compounded by the fact that plastics both leach out and absorb harmful pollutants. As plastics break down, they leach out colorants and chemicals that have been linked to environmental and health problems. Conversely, plastics can also absorb pollutants from the seawater. These chemicals can then enter the food chain when consumed by marine life. In conclusion, I've talked about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. I've talked about what countries contribute to marine pollution the most. I've talked about what marine pollution does to the environment and what it does to the organisms living amongst the pollution. All this, however, only scratches the surface as to how big this problem actually is. Thank you.